Breach Inlet is a body of water in South Carolina that separates the Isle of Palms from Sullivan's Island. A bridge crosses the body of water to connect the islands. The inlet is very deep and has a dangerously strong current, causing there to be signs advising against swimming in the area. People often fish here, and many folks stop, relax, and take in the beautiful scenery. Breach Inlet has a rich history from the American Revolution through World War II. In 1776, it was the site of military activities during the Battle of Sullivan's Island, where patriots led by Colonel William Danger Thompson repelled a British army attempting to cross it and storm Fort Moultrie. Today, Breach Inlet is much narrower and has historical markers commemorating its role. But one of the things that attracted us to this area was its connection to the American Civil War, in particular to the Confederate submarine, the HL Hunley. It's 1864 and the Civil War is in its third year. The U.S. blockade along the southern East Coast has taken a tremendous toll on the southern states, particularly the Charleston, South Carolina area. The blockade was quite successful. Basic government and civilian goods were extremely difficult to obtain. U.S. warships bombarded the city often. The Confederacy was desperate to break the blockade. Since very early in the war, the Confederacy had made many attempts to develop an underwater submarine to destroy U.S. warships in the Charleston Harbor and the Atlantic Ocean. Work was well underway in New Orleans to create a submarine capable of sinking and destroying U.S. warships. Its creator, HL Hunley, thus its name, the HL Hunley. After a short sea trial in Mobile, Alabama, the Hunley was put on a train and shipped up to Charleston, South Carolina to help break the blockade. Arriving on August 12, 1863, she was 40 feet long by 4 feet wide, displacing about 7.5 tons. She was designed for a crew of 8, with 7 operating a hand crank and the 8th steering the boat. A test run on August 29th ended in disaster when skipper John A. Payne accidentally stepped on the lever controlling the diving planes with the hatches open. Payne and 2 others escaped, but the other 5 crew members went to the bottom. A second crew tested the submarine on October 15th, this one including Horace Hunley himself. The submarine conducted a mock attack but failed to surface afterward, this time drowning all 8 crew members. Despite those 2 disastrous test runs, there was no shortage of volunteers. Once again, the Hunley was fished up from the bottom. Lieutenant George Dixon recruited a crew of 7 as operations were based out of Mount Pleasant. In 1864, Breach Inlet attracted the attention of Dixon, the new captain of the HL Hunley. Dixon chose the Cont Creek side of Breach Inlet as the Hunley's new base for 2 reasons. First, its location on Sullivan's Island put it within walking distance of the town of Mount Pleasant. And second, the entrance to Breach Inlet was shaped like a comma. The inlet's mouth faced southeast and directed its tidal currents between 2 sandbars into the Atlantic Ocean. So that, when the Hunley sorted forth, Breach Inlet's curved comma shape would aim the boat directly at the blockading Union squadron anchored off Charleston Harbor. The objective of the Hunley was to attack a U.S. warship with a spar that was mounted to the bow. At the end of the spar was a 137-pound waterproof cask of powder, attached to a harpoon-like device with which the Hunley would ram its target. In early 1864, Lieutenant George Dixon and his men were quartered at Ronkin's Long Room on Ferry Street in the old village of Mount Pleasant. The lieutenant had convinced General Beauregard he could use the Hunley in an attempt to dismantle the Union blockade of Charleston Harbor by targeting the USS Housatonic, a powerful steamship boasting 11 large-caliber guns. Each morning, the crew rose before daylight in order to keep their identities and mission a secret. They made their long march past Alhambra Hall, over the Pitt Street Bridge, and down to Breach Inlet, where the Hunley was stationed, to perform drills and ready themselves for the attack. 5 nights a week, the Hunley's crew took their boat out on maneuvers, practicing diving and surfacing, often in Cove Creek, behind the island. On February 17, 1864, Lieutenant Dixon and his crew traversed this path for the final time and boarded their submarine. Their attack on the Housatonic was a success. The Hunley rammed a 150-pound torpedo into the ship, and within moments, she exploded and sank to the bottom of the harbor. However, the crew of the Hunley never returned to Breach Inlet. In fact, they were not seen again until August 8, 2000, when the submarine was finally found and pulled from the sea. The recovery of the Hunley was led by Clive Cussler's National Underwater Maritime Agency and the United States Navy, with the help of the Hunley Commission and Friends of the Hunley, a non-profit group charged with raising funds in support of the vessel. The HL Hunley submarine is now on exhibit at the Warren Lash Conservation Center in Charleston. The Hunley is kept in a specially built tank filled with fresh water to prevent additional corrosion. The entire crew's remains were recovered intact within the vessel. Scientific reconstruction was done to present the entire crew as they would have appeared. A memorial service was conducted in April of 2004 for the entire crew of the Hunley. Thousands of people attended, including some 6,000 reenactors and 4,000 civilians wearing period clothing. Color guards from all 5 branches of the U.S. Armed Forces were also in the procession. On April 17, 2004, the remains of the crew were laid to rest at Magnolia Cemetery in Charleston. Even though only 2 of the crew were from the Confederate States, all were buried with full Confederate honors, including being buried with the 2nd Confederate national flag, known as the Stainless Banner. One haunted story from the area dates back to pre-Civil War times. This story tells of a woman in a white gown sighted at the inlet on occasion, walking along the beach until she quickly vanishes from sight. Legend tells that she was the wife of a soldier from Fort Moultrie that was caught cheating on her husband with another man. The husband anchored his wife to the ground with heavy weights until the tide rolled in. He then left her to drown from the incoming tide. Another story, known as the Night Ranger's March, has been witnessed by many people. It is documented in the book Haunted Harbor. Some locals have heard low whispers and the sound of boots marching in step as they continue their daily trek through the old village to the inlet. One lady stated she saw this breathing, like smoke or fog, shooting out above the ground below the streetlights. She claimed she witnessed the foggy murmur slowly disappear down the road. A few people have stated the fog appears in human form only to disappear before their very eyes before it can completely materialize. What say you? Could this be the crew of the HL Hunley marching to and from Mount Pleasant to the inlet, just like they did every day and evening back in 1864? Many locals in the area think indeed it is. Thus, they've been named the Night Rangers.